Sesim geliyor mu? Heh.
Loading as fast as I can. Wait a sec. Attack. Need reinforcements. Target hit. I'm not strong enough.
Allah Allah.
Don't give up any new opportunities.
Can a hanged man be revived?
Refilling magazine. On my way. Go. Guard the red pig. Don't let them. Careful, everyone. Killed. Reloading as fast as I can. Wait a sec. Careful, everyone. Guardians of Thanks for the compliment. It was nuts. Reloading. I'm under attack. Need reinforcements.
Damn.
Open fire!
I'm back. I'll do better this time.
Reloading! Careful, guys!
Red team. Look down on me. Reloading. Thanks for the compliment.
Biz
It was
kartın içine
nothing.
durdu salak.
Vice-chan. Protect everyone. Is this goodbye?
Under attack!
Aw.
Taking fire! Hard to miss!
I won't give up any new opportunities.
Fast as my shovel.
Evacuate from the fire! All on the mountain!
Go! Guardians of Ice-chan! Go protect everyone! Reload! And hit! Target hit! Thanks for the compliment. It was nothing. Is this goodbye? Aw. I'm back. I'll do better this time.
My rebirth will turn the tides.
Thanks for the compliment. Loading as fast as I can. Wait a sec.
İnanamıyorum. Ah. 8-4 ulan. Sınıftancı oldu yani. Şey vardı. Kodum Arapları yanlış buldu ona.
That's all I can say. It's not really necessary for the point I'm trying to make. But because people were already all aboard the history and only looking for more things to use to complain about the series, they were ready and willing to believe whatever was said, whether or not it was even true. People started sharing images of Shaggy. Sorry, I mean Morphle. And I just said that I see a lot of people complaining that he's called Morphle now, but that was always his real name. If you watched Scooby-Doo 2 as many times as me, you would know this. But he's with this previously inconsequential girl character, with the plot synopsis stating how Morphle and her would start dating. Guess what was this girl's name? Scooby. That's kind of fucking weird, isn't it? You make a Scooby-Doo series without the titular character and then give their name to a random girl who's meant to get with Shaggy? These writers are pretty messed up. Well, newsflash, it's not real. It was never real. This girl was always named Gigi in the credits, which allowed folks to see that this is nothing more than a made-up story to drum up some more controversy. As if the actual content of the show didn't do a good enough job at that. And if people would have just waited another week, they'd see how Scooby was integrated into the series. Being the codename for some secret operation that puts a member of Norville's family in prison, I think. It's pretty dumb, honestly.
Special Covert Operations Brain Initiative, or Scooby.
Scooby? And wait, what did Scooby do?
Again, not everyone talking about Velma are actually watching it. Given their willingness to believe every little thing said, true or not, the series got views and is popular because it's a brand new adult take on one of the most popular beloved kids properties of all time, that literally everybody has seen at some point in their life. There has been new Scooby-Doo content on an almost yearly basis for like 50 years. Anything Scooby-Doo related is quite possibly the widest net for any target demographic. You know, it wasn't gender specific. It wasn't a boys cartoon or a girls cartoon or any of those things.
It was a talking dog.
You know what I mean? I think sometimes the terminally online forget that not everyone on God's Green Earth operates a Twitter account where they can see what new thing is being complained about that day, and simply went onto their HBO Max account, was welcomed by all the Velma posters being advertised, which I can attest were everywhere, and gave it a click to see what it was all about. Plain and simple, no deeper meaning or conspiracy behind it. Also, I saw a lot of people blaming hate watching on the fact that it was picked up for a second season, when that also isn't true. It's a very common practice for networks to pick up a show for a second season and announce that fact either right before the series premiere or not long after, as it further gives news sites and people stuff to talk about. Not to mention that it makes it seem like the series is popular enough to warrant a second season, when in reality it was just one to draw more eyes. Powerpuff Girls 2016 and Sonic Boom got picked up for second season very shortly after coming on, which gave them both so much stress about how successful they were, only for viewership to immediately drop and Cartoon Network to try and sweep them under the rug. Sonic Boom being dumped onto Boomerang for its second season, with no advertising at all, with episodes getting as little ratings as 80,000 viewers. For contrast, the first episode did over 1 million. So no, let's stop pointing the finger at who's to blame for Velma getting a second season. If people wanted to watch the show before gathering a solid opinion and posting their thoughts about it on the internet, then that's their prerogative. This is a judge-free zone. If you want to watch Velma, go right ahead. The simple answer here is that your average person making a video or post about this show does not care about Velma. Hell, I don't either. But there's so much outrage and attention being brought onto it because it's the current cool thing to hate. Nobody wants to be the odd one out crapping on a show beloved by everyone. So when a new series comes along that is so widely hated with so many obvious flaws, they jump at the chance to start making fun of it. It's similar to a point I made in my Big March video, where I often see folks excuse bad products by claiming people worked hard on them and therefore you shouldn't be able to criticize it. But suddenly a show like Velma comes along and apparently the gloves are off. That hard work doesn't matter anymore. The real conclusion here is that everybody wants to act like they're above crapping on things. That they would never stoop that low and we should only engage with stuff positively. But once a situation comes around where they know they can get away with it because it's the popular opinion, that positivity goes away. So keep watching Velma. Keep tweeting about people hate watching Velma too. At the end of the day, you're both just giving it engagement. Exactly what the executive want. I think most people who go down addiction have at least at one point in their life thought about eventually wanting to pursue making a show or movie of their own. But the thought is often not possible at the time. The sheer amount of problems arise with wanting to do that. For example, time, money, skill, whatever it may be. I mean, can you imagine the struggle most people face trying to get their own show picked up? Having to spend years rising the ladder of the entertainment industry, trying your absolute hardest to build your skills, network with the right people, and maybe, just maybe, you'll get the chance to pitch your own series. And that's not even to account for the new pile of problems that you face when doing that. Not only do you have to make sure your pitch is good enough to be picked up by a studio, but also knowing that at any point in the next few years you could wake up to the information that your dream project has been cancelled, through no fault of your own, in which it just remains dormant and untouchable. Think about all that. All that slaving away at a passion project that at any point in time could just... poof. Now think about how these two men have somehow managed to be picked up for 3 cartoons from the past 10 years, and they're all exactly the same and
There's
equally
a muzzle
terrible.
here.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, seriously, I can't imagine the process of creating one show, never mind friggin' 3 of them. So you'd think with that extremely lucky opportunity that they would have maybe, I don't know, do something creative, perhaps? Oh no, bare minimum. Let's do it close. Roger Black and Wacko Wig. 2 friends who back in the for school to create their very own adult animated series to air on Comedy Central, with the end result being Brickleberry. Following its cancellation, they then went on to produce another adult cartoon for Netflix, Paradise PD, in 2018, which is somehow still running to this day with its 4th and final season airing at the end of 2022. But evidently in the meantime they've been busy, as most recently as 2 weeks ago we saw their next endeavor, adult cartoon, for Netflix, enter 2022's Far.
Is this gonna be more like Futurama?
It's gonna be more like shut the fuck up.
I previously made a video on the crossover that Paradise PD and Brickleberry had, and how it was one of the most pointless crossovers in history.
Hurry, everyone!
Go watch that video and also subscribe.
Mainly due to how similar those were, with basically the same premise, characters, and cast. And clearly the creators were also aware of this, since the special is 30 minutes of poking fun at how lazy they are, making joke after joke about how both of the shows are just the same. And on top of that, how both shows are just shameless imitations of other adult comedies.
No, Brickleberry.
Oh, Family Guy in the Woods?
Should we
So
move
with them
here?
knowing about this obvious issue, my main thought going into Farzar was how they were going to try and make it stand apart from the other 2. Does it accomplish this? I mean, there was an attempt. A shallow,
Materials here.
unsuccessful attempt. It's like they just took a couple characters from Brickleberry, combined it with a couple from Paradise PD, introduced 1 or 2 new archetypes, and there you go, you got a new hit series. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Netflix's Farzar. And not only how it's a shameless rehash of the creator's screenplay, but also just not very good in general.
Evet.
I would call that intro deceptively good, but then I remembered it's just a lame imitation of Paradise PD's intro, and I got my expectations ready for a show that would be nowhere near as good. I was right.
Evet, mantıklı.
Farzar is the story of Prince Faikal, the incompetent son of the Tsar Renzo, who can't stand his son because he's, well, yeah, incompetent. After finally being made a general, and given a crew consisting of a band of misfits, the gang sometimes go out on adventures across the planet and sometimes just
There are materials.
kind of do nothing for an entire episode. Already though, that's a big difference from their previous 2 works. With both of those simply being sitcoms about an angry boss and bad employees with a quirky, funny animal sidekick. You know, there's somewhat of a higher concept to it that never successfully utilized because the whole thing is basically the same despite all this. What? Our protagonist Faikal is simply just Steve and Kevin from the previous shows, just given a new haircut again. The only thing to separate him from the previous 2 is that they're finally using different voice actors to disguise the laziness. It's just too bad that they picked fucking Dana Schneider to voice him. I have nothing against the guy, he's without a doubt a stellar voice actor, but he does not work at all for the dumb, in theory, lovable, wide-eyed protagonist. He works much better as the villain of the series, whom he also voices. But for Faikal, it's just a bit. Faikal has no real goal in this show, other than the approval of his father, but because his father is a one-note jerk, there's no secret. We already know from the start that he's not going to change his mind at all. Not to mention, there's no real character given him other than the amazing traits. He loves his dad. He's dumb. So I honestly couldn't give less than if he wins over his dad or not. After the first episode where he learns about how much they try to give him this goal of helping aliens and being some kind of space activist. But really, the only time they go into this is specifically fucking that up. Like the entire episode about him creating a sanctuary for a deadly creature that gets unleashed on all of them. So I wonder why they even give him this creature, other than to introduce some kind of conflict between him and his father. And his supposed best friend is also just the fucking black guy from Brickleberry, but a robot. Other than that, they're identical, same voice actor and all. The copies don't stop there either. We have the try-hard badass lady from Paradise PD, except with a nicer version of contrast. We have this scientist who is clearly trying to do their own take on Rick Sanchez, but then being way more crude and wacky, because that's what made him an interesting character. And finally, we have the villain, who had a dumb name that I'm not repeating. He's just a cheap imitation of every funny and incompetent villain that are really popular to do now, except they're trying way too hard to make him random and triple just cause him not to be taken as any sort of threat. Like, he just regularly talks to our protagonist like they're just standing around the water cooler. I don't really know what his purpose is here when he's so detached from our main... Well, I was gonna say story, but it doesn't have that either. He wants to sneak into the human civilization, and so each plot starring him features him being given some idea for how to do this, then he fucks it up. It's a formula as repetitive as Phineas and Ferb, but without the charming characters and epic soundtrack. Really, the dad Renzo is the only new character here, and even then, he too just falls under the same one or two gags again and again. He hits his wife and son and is actually a bad guy. It's like the creators saw an episode of Invincible and were like, that's a good idea, let's just do that again, while feeling and providing any sort of depth. I have like the rip-off creature that's just an obvious clone of the bear they had in Brickleberry, who was already a clone of Stewie from Family Guy. We have a clone of the clone. Those Paradise PD did the obvious stuff Brian Griffin, the other animal sidekick. None of these guys have anything going on apart from right and best you in their world or what's running their I mean, they are, but why fix that if its only goal is to be a crass inappropriate? But clearly these guys are attempting something greater here with all the episodes building up something above your usual crappy adult comedy. But like I said before, that's nothing but a disguise to make you think you're watching something more interesting than what it actually is. And they obviously know about other similar shows, but there doesn't seem to be any understanding of what made them popular or good aside from shit and sex and cursing and violence and shit and cursing and sex and violence and shit. Since they brought up the comparison themselves, let's take a look at what makes a show like Futurama or Rick and Morty so popular. Something both of these shows do, at least when they started, is provide the viewer with a good protagonist who saw the crazy sci-fi concept from a regular person's point of view. You know, it's new to them. Giving the audience someone more grounded to relate to and latch onto among all the nonsense. Not only that, but it also gives something to contrast against all the insanity, which helps in exaggerating it even further. They also show us the sheer variety of ideas they can tackle with something as broad as space. Whereas Farzar largely takes place in the same 4 or 5 locations more often than not, because it's simply a generic-ass sitcom masquerading as a sci-fi show. In Farzar, all the characters here are completely jaded to all the surreal concepts around them, so none of the jokes here have any real impact to them, and they never really set any kind of rules for this place other than there's a human world surrounded by a barrier and all the aliens aren't allowed in. That's it, that's all we're told here. All the episodes follow the same sort of non-structure. With Paradise PD, the two attempted to tell a more serialized story where there are threads that build up and carry over throughout the season, and the same thing is attempted here with similar poor results. It causes each episode to blend together with nothing to make it stand out. In the first episode, other than establishing the characters, the only sort of 3-act plot they've got going on is that Feichel feels betrayed by his robot friend for sending him on a wild goose chase in exchange for drugs. But all that happens here is that during the ending, he says he's sorry out of nowhere and won't do it again. Why though? This is rare though in and of itself. The finale is simply one big action sequence for 15 minutes that's so clearly trying to be wild and hectic, with Feichel finally standing up to his father once and for all. But nothing is done to try and achieve this. If you've seen the final episode of Farzar and want to see it done right, go and watch the Battle Royale from Wander Over Yonder. Just watch that show in general. I want it on the record that my review for Farzar is go watch Wander Over Yonder instead. When they're not attempting to brand and stick with the story, they're painfully retreading the exact same types of jokes as their other series. But hey, I guess I have no right to shit on it because clearly a ton of people are massive fans of this type of humor. Speaking of, with crappy adult comedies such as these or Big Mouth or whatever, I always see people question if they're being mean and nobody likes them. And the truth is, while we people online may not enjoy them and discuss that, general audiences eat this shit up. There are tons and tons of people who consume and enjoy these shows and have no idea about their online reputation. I see such stellar reviews as, "You guys are geniuses. I can't pick a favorite show because they're all the tits." What a review. Can you imagine if I made a video like that? But it's just trying way too hard to be random. Every character is equally deranged, so they can make whatever sort of jokes they want with no filter. But when every character feels no different from the last aside from their occupation, and I don't particularly like any of them, it makes it way more hard for me to turn my mind off and just play along with the nonsense, if that makes any sense. Like, there are jokes in here that I know if were done in a show I liked, I'd be way more likely to laugh at them. But when I hate everybody, I just want them to shut the fuck up no matter what.
You know, since it's here.
Alright, 5 minutes.
This is all certainly not helped with the animation, being handled by the same fine folks who did Paradise PD. And what more can I say? It's just sad seeing this is the style most of these adult shows seem to have success emulating. Maybe it's because general adults who aren't exactly fans of animation would feel less embarrassed about watching a cartoon because it looks so crude, I guess? I have no clue what the appeal is here, honestly. But I can definitely see the appeal to a studio. It must be so hard being an animator on one of these projects. Not only do you have to work in an industry that doesn't respect your time or talent, and not only overworks you, but underpays you too. But on top of all that, after slaving away on something like this just to make a living, you then have assholes like me on the internet shitting all over your work. So I want to make it clear, I judge nobody on the animation team for these shows ending up looking the way they do. It is 100% on the higher-ups, but I still feel bad, you know? There are undoubtedly amazingly talented folks working on a show like this, but they're being restricted so heavily through style guidelines, resources,